Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday as we look back at a wonderful weekend in Irish Greyhound Racing. Loads of racing to look back on. As you can see, the exiled one is not with us. Instead, we have Barry Caul with us. Barry, you're not playing in Marley Park on Tuesday night. Uh, it's you. It's not Pitbull. You left the aviators down. You're not Pitbull today. Okay. We had the Boyle Sports Champion Stakes on Saturday night at Shelbourne Park, Barry. And I think it's safe to say it lived up to its name. Brilliant performances, Bouncing Monarch, obviously beating Bocco's Diamond. Ballymac simply stunning. And what a cracking final heat. And I know you got great joy out of seeing Sober Barry winning for Cal Ramsbottom. Listen, it's never been explained whether it's named after you or not, but I think we both know it is.
No, it's the wrong name if it is. First of all, I don't know who Pitbull was. Well, I didn't know who Pitbull was until last week when Michael Dempsey said to me, his son said, "Is that Pitbull?" And I was like, "Who's Pitbull?" But no, I wish I had it. I wish I had his money anyway. But a lot of people going googling Pitbull now. Yeah, cracking night racing at Shelbourne Park. It looked a cracking card from the outset, wasn't it? Semi-finals of the place, two cracking races there. Also the Maiden Derby, which we'll touch on as well. That was a real thriller. Delighted for Sean Conway and Pat Grimes there. But yeah, as you say, in the three semi-finals, three wonderful contests, and as the last one as well, Snowball Party. What a race! I'd say if we were betting and running, he was definitely 1,000, wasn't he? He was 1,000 to 1 off the
He was
last bend, and
gone.
two
He was
dogs left
beaten.
up front.
When Glengar Caden went around the outside, you're thinking, that's it, game over, ball burst. And for him to rally like that was great, certainly for Carol and Sean anyway, and a few of his backers, shall we say. We'll go through the semi-finals. Firstly, Barry, Bouncing Monarch versus Bocco's Diamond. Obviously, they didn't go toe to toe throughout the contest, but they certainly did go toe to toe into the bend. Two greyhounds with stunning early speed, and they were nip and tuck into the corner. And Bouncing Monarch had the inside line, and that was the decisive factor.
Yeah, even money each or two in the betting ring, and I think the way most people read this race was Bacchus Diamond was likely to lead, and if Bouncing Monarch had sort of outrun him down into the third bend and maybe outstay him towards home, that was the way the race was sort of planned out in most people's heads. But Bacchus Diamond came away well, but so too did Bouncing Monarch. And once he led up the inside of him at the opening bend, it was game over. I know there was three lengths in at the end, but he was never going to pick him up, was he? Dearjet Matilda came in as a reserve. She runs on quite strongly, but she could never get near the front two. Huge run by Bouncing Monarch. Like we know what he's done. He's won the Kirby. He's produced some huge clocks, and that was his first official run, first official race around Shelbourne Park. I'm sure he's had a couple of spins around there unofficially, but yeah, he can only improve. 29:30 showed stunning early pace up the inside. To get up the inside of Bocco's Diamond, we all know how good Bocco's Diamond is, despite his advancing years. But a huge run from Bouncing Monarch. And look, Bocco's Diamond, I'm sure Connections will be happy with him. I'm sure he's expected to step up for the run. But yeah, it was billed as the Clash of the Titans, and it was sort of game over at the first bend, but the two of them did run with real credit.
Yeah, listen, it was a bit of a no-brainer when you see Bouncing Monarch winning like he did in the Conn Curb Memorial. It looked like he was going to be tailor-made for 550 yards at Shelburne Park. We've seen nothing to change our view on that. He can only improve for it himself. Obviously, he only had one run in the semi-finals of the Race of Champions, and that's a few weeks ago now at this point. So he too is entitled to come on for the run. Bocco's Diamond lost nothing in defeat. Like, the fact of the matter is, he's approaching 4 years of age. He's not going to be getting any better. We will never probably see the Bocco's Diamond of, let's say, Derby semi-finals 2024, which was perhaps the most perfect display of greyhound racing I've ever seen. It was just unbelievable. He may never be that greyhound again. But there's no reason why he can't do still a 29:20, 29:30 type run around Sheldon Park. And certainly ran hard to the third bend. Yes, Bouncing Monarch was just that fraction stronger from that point home. And but again, just I think I saw enough to suggest that if Bocco's Diamond had led Bouncing Monarch, I'm not sure it would have been reversed. I don't think Bouncing Monarch would have picked him up, and that's the straw that connections of Bocco's Diamond will be clinging on to going into the final. Dearjet Matilda, you mentioned her there, came in as a reserve. Barry, she absolutely hammered home. I know she's been running over 750 yards, but just looks like a bitch that is probably loving life at the moment. Probably got a bit of confidence out of 750s.
Yeah, I thought she ran quite well on a couple of rounds of those of the Corncool Hullins. And again, like you look at what she's coming from off the pace behind, two real superstars in Bocco's Diamond and Bouncing Monarch. So look, I'm sure they'll throw her into the Derby. And you look at a couple of bitches going back not so many years ago, the likes of Crafty Coro and 365. These bitches, they just are so hard to keep out of the frame, and she just sort of falls into that sort of a mold, doesn't she? She'll be a big price for the Derby. Will she win it? Highly unlikely, but she could be the type that just could keep on sneaking away into the quarterfinals and semi-finals.
Absolutely. You certainly rule out nothing. But again, it was down to Bouncing Monarch and Bocco's Diamond. The big two finished in first and second. On to the second heat, and I'll be honest, Barry, I got involved here. I just thought the price about Ballymac Kamala was way, way too big. Epic Ace, yes, he had a trial at Shelbourne Park, but you spend 4 or 5 weeks in those boxes at Toaster. It's just going to take you a little while to adapt, and like he can be a touch inconsistent at boxes anyway. So I just felt the 8 to 11 was plenty short enough. Meanwhile, Ballymac Kamala was brilliant through the Oaks. Probably just her performance has tailed off just a fraction in the last 2 rounds of that. She's had a little bit of a freshener up now, 2 to 3 weeks, and this was stunning from a really, really top class lady. 29-25. What impressed me was the fact that she came home so much faster than Bouncing Monarch. It was very impressive.
What's impressed me is the two of us were on her and she still managed to win.
Yeah,
That's an amazing feat in itself. Yeah, I like you. I'm a big fan of Epic Ace, but he does have that tendency to miss the kick, and he did that again on Saturday night. And Ballymakamala, like I think people are sort of going back to the Oaks, going, "Oh, she was disappointing in the Oaks." That was her first. I think she's won 6 of her last 7 now, and the only
mhm.
defeat came in the Oaks final. And she was arguably unlucky in that Oaks final. She was just
She
about to
was.
pick up the running around the opening bend of Clan Stafford, and she just lost her stride. But yeah, she's an incredible bitch. As I say, 6 of her last 7. She went up really strongly there on the outside. Visually very impressive to the eye. I know it was slightly quicker than Bouncing Monarch, but you know yourself, Ian, when you see dogs that just visually take your eye, she certainly did. Huge performance. She can do it from any trap. She was an inside seed there going into Saturday night and bombed out from 6, done everything right, 29-25. That's the type of a run that could win you a derby. A derby final, like you done things right, you done 29-25. That will win many a derby. So she's in real, real super form. Stunning early pace. She stays really, really strongly. Decent draw in the final as well, which we'll touch on. And Get Up the Boy. I'm a big fan of this dog, Get Up the Boy. We'll speak about him again in a minute. But yeah, he ran a cracker. Only his second run back since he came back from England, I think. Didn't happen for Epic Ace, I just say. Jack Tavern Turbo and him. I think they slightly came together in the open, maybe 20 yards or so. I think Turbo might have just come across him. Yeah, that sort of ended those chances. But yeah, you'd have to be impressed by the winner, Ballymakamala. And I think she won't be much bigger than the two boys in the final, Bocco's Diamonds and Bouncing Monarch.
Yeah, at the moment, let's say the sponsors are 2 to 1 each of two, Bocco's Diamond and Bouncing Monarch, and Ballymac Kamala is in around 5 to 2. Now, if you're finding it tight, the fact that Bouncing Monarch and Bocco's Diamond are drawn side to side, I think the value probably would lie with Ballymac Kamala of the big three, shall we say? Now, there'll be a bit of value elsewhere if that's the way you see it, but yeah, I think if she was mine, I'd stick an M on her. I think she's so much. She just seems to be so much sharper at boxes from sort of middle to wide. But again, she can do it from every box. We've seen her win from the inside on many an occasion. She's just a really top class performer, and I think the 550 run up really does suit her too. Um,
Yeah, look,
she certainly didn't leave anything in the boxes either.
no, and she's like I was speaking to Damien as well yesterday, Damien Donegan from Boyle Sports, about the prices, and we were talking about Kamal, and he, like you, was said, you think she's better off in maybe the middle. But you go back looking at her form, and she's won from nearly every box, and she's a 198 as well from Trap One in Shelbourne Park. So of all the finalists, she's the one that you don't really matter what box she gets, because if she hits it, she's going to be away and gone. Very, very versatile. Winning form over 2 bends, top class races over 2 bends and over 4 bends. She's a real
Yeah.
star.
Get Up the Boy has a habit of producing a big run on the big night. Like his record at one point was something like 20-2, and those two wins were Juvenile Derby final and the Juvenile at the Winter Racing Festival. He has been in great form. He ran very well through the early rounds of the Kirby, ran very well in England. And no surprise to either of us to see him in another final. He's just been a remarkably good tracker for Mark Robinson and Daniel Ornstein.
He's probably one of the most underrated dogs in the country at the moment. Like, you look back through his form, as you say, he won the Juvenile Derby last year at Shelbourne Park. I think that was only his second ever win. It might have been his first win. I think it was the second win. And then, as you say, he went on to win the Winter Racing Festival. Went down then to the Kirby, ran a cracker in that. Went over to the English Derby. He was semi-finalist in the Kirby, finished fourth. Obviously, the worst place you can finish.
Yeah.
Went to the English Derby this year, ran really well. Quarter-finalist, fourth again. And then he came back to Shelbourne Park and posted, I think it was 27.90 odd, 27.98 in a trial before racing. And then this is his comeback run, finishes second. Now, albeit well beaten in the end, but he's just an underrated greyhound. We rolled off that list of achievements there. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And he's got a cracking draw in Trap One on Saturday night. He could do 29, 30, 29, 40 any day of the week if he
Yeah.
got things right. And could be a double figure price here on Saturday. And if you're struggling to separate the big three, this lad, he's real value from trap one. He's got a good record around Shelbourne Park in big finals, and very, very hard to rule him out in this one.
Like if it was an ordinary night and you'd be throwing in the sort of the comments on top of the card, it'd be one for trios. He's got a great draw. He's
Yeah.
definitely a greyhound that should make the makeup. Should get involved at some point. You can't see the big three all getting a clear passage, all getting away and gone. Like he's definitely going to be sort of sitting on heels off the second bend, going, "Where's my gap?" And what'll I be doing from here? But I'll tell you something, he can certainly get involved at a big price. To that third heat, and again, plenty going on here. Sober Barry came away well, as did Colours of Green. Colours of Green, that's twice he's run over the 550 yards. Twice he's gone up really strongly. Again, this was another under the radar good run from him. Yet he finishes third. I was impressed by how he went to the opening corner. But Sober Barry is lightning quick into the bend. We've known that for quite some time now. At this stage, we've seen them dog grow up, both at Kilkenny and now at Shelbourne Park. He went up the inside of Colours of Green and then just was always seeming to hold his rival. Colours of Green tried his best to get there. He's moving in on the third bend. Himself and Sober Barry are probably rubbing shoulders, and that allows Glengarry Kane, who then switches to the outside, to go around the outside of the pair of them. But he then sort of edges in towards the fence, and it all gets a bit tight. Colours of Green is forced to check. Already he's sort of lost a little bit of momentum. He's forced to check. His race is run at that point off the last bend. Looks like Glengarry King goes to the front briefly, but Sober Barry sort of carried more momentum. He sort of seemed to got himself going quicker than Glengarry Kane and quickly steals another length. And all of a sudden, he runs the line. He wins by 2 lengths. I think I think this was a graduation type display. Like we've seen him running really well in good company in 525 yards, but I think this is a different level from him. He showed something different for us.
Yeah, I spoke to Carol briefly after the race, and I said, "My God, he was gutsy. He went on to win by 3 parts." And Carol said, "No, 2 lengths." I said, "What? What?" And
Yeah.
like, if you were to say, was he going to win off the last bend, or was he going to go and win by 2 lengths? Absolutely not. But
Mhm.
yeah, look, the makeup of the race helped him a little bit with Shanahy Boomer out of four. He was always going to be a massive thorn in the side of them
Yeah.
because he can fly to the corner. But I don't think Sober Barry came out great. If you look at it again, he didn't trap that well at all, but it was just his sheer early pace. And to go up the inside of a dog like Colours of Green, he's got rapid early pace. And let's be honest, he was a little bit disappointing in his last run behind Bocco's Diamond. He was passed down the back straight and sort of faded out of things. And you were sort of scratching your head. He was so good previously against that good dog of Pacquiao Foyle's music in her, when you tell me the name of that, Waiting for a Star. When he beat him that night, he was so good that night, and then a little bit disappointing against Bocco's Diamond. But my God, if he wanted to throw in the towel there on Saturday night, he had 3 or 4 chances to easily wave the white flag. He was game into the third bend, holding his line. I still thought he had a big chance, but then when the other two went past him, and he was definitely headed by both. He was 100 to 1 off the last bend, but he showed a really good attitude. Just wanted it more, and yeah, 2 lengths was the winning margin in the end. He does have a lot to find on the clock, but Carroll went close in this last year, didn't he? With Check for Cash finishing second, so hopefully he can go one better.
It is worth pointing out, like you say, he didn't take a flyer. He does a 340. Yeah, Colours of Green does a 340. The other two heat winners, Bouncing Monarch and Ballymac, both did 341. So,
Well,
like,
you look at that just to your naked eye. Look at that and tell me that he didn't take a he certainly
yeah,
didn't take a flyer. If you just watch the race again, the mind time sometimes he certainly didn't come away, and that was a general consensus. I was there Saturday night. I'm back in talking to a few regulars there, and they all said the same thing. He didn't even come away that well. So I know the clock can be deceiving, but just trust your eye more often than not. He can definitely come away a lot quicker than that.
yeah, no question about it. In second spot was Glengarry Kane. It was his first run at Shelbourne Park. It was only his second ever career defeat. Obviously he's lightly raced for his age. He's a very talented tracker. He's going to need to obviously brush up in his starting at Shelbourne Park and the company he's now going to be keeping. This was, you know. Obviously, he went through an unraced ticket and a Scorthy and then ran very well in a couple of the early rounds of the English Greyhound Derby. Um, this was a tougher contest perhaps than some of the contests he had in English Derby. So it was a step up in company, and you can't say he completely fluffed his lines or anything like it. He showed lots of pace in defeat. He's going to need to be sharper early, but there's definitely big runs to come from at Shelbourne Park. He's going to need to take a rocket now from traps on Saturday night to get involved. Let's be truthful, but he definitely has loads of ability.
He does, and as you mentioned, his career there, Pat, he's just stepping up in grade every single time. Like his first few runs were an unraced stake in Kilkenny, and then the opening rounds of the English Derby where some of the heats are soft enough, but look, he still was very impressive. And I think he might have beat Get Up the Boy in one of those heats. The two of them had a good buckle. They might have been first and second. I think it might have been the first round or second round. I could be wrong, but I think he got the better of Get Up the Boy in one of those earlier heats. And yeah, look, he showed good pace to get himself into contention on
Yeah.
Saturday night behind two classy sorts in Colours of Green and Sober Barry. But he does look to be facing a tricky draw, doesn't he, on Saturday night with Sober Barry likely to edge in. I think Bouncing Monarch might just edge in as well, but he's
Mm.
Kamala on his inside as well. So not a great draw, but yeah, look, he's still a Greyhound with a big, big future.
It's hard to believe. Like he's only had the 9 starts. He's in October 23. He's the second oldest finalist. You know what I mean? He's half the run. He's half the runs of the nearest less experienced. Like Sober Barry has 18 runs in January 24 whelp, and Glengar Kane is just the 9 runs in October 23 whelp. Obviously, he was late enough starting his career. He was over 2 years of age. I'm not sure if it was setbacks or whatnot. I think Pat had been targeting for a couple of things and just didn't happen. But from the very start, Pat thought the world of him. Obviously, he's the track record holder at Enniscorthy, and you consider some of the champions that have gone around Enniscorthy in recent years. Hell of a run. We have a cracking final. Get Up the Boy in 1, Kamala in 2, Glengar Kane 3, Sober Barry 4, Bouncing Monarch 5, Bocco's Diamond 6. We can talk about this to a blue in the face, Barry, but when it comes down to it, something's going to take a flyer, get around that opening corner, and that's probably going to be that. The bottom two are 2-1 joint favourites. Ballymac Kamala 5-2. It's then 8-1 Glengar Kane. 14, I think, Get Up the Boy, or 12 Get Up the Boy, and Sober Barry, the 21 outsider of the party. But this is one of those races where I've said it again, a flying start could really put you in the picture.
Yeah, the winner of this is going to do 3:35 and 16:90 and 29:30, isn't it? It's going to be something like that there. That's the way in these big finals. But just knowing what one it's going to be is the tricky part. As a layer, if you could lay them all at those sort of prices, especially the top three, if you could lay them at 2-1 and maybe 9-4 or 5-2 Kamala, you'd be in a pretty good place because you'll have two real live ones running for you, and then you have a couple of the outsiders as well. So,
Hmm.
been thinking about it the last night or so. Don't think it's a race for me to have a bet in. At 20-1, Sober Barry, and at 16-1, as you mentioned, Get Up the Boy. They're no slouches, these two dogs, and you mentioned there the sectional that Sober Barry did. I know he's got a half second to find on the clock, but it's all about getting around that first bend in front. And if he were to take a flyer, we've seen him take a flyer before tonight that he bet Pat Foyle's dog. He can do it, but would you be steaming into the others having 100 or 200 quid in them at 2-1 or 5-2? Look, Bocco's Diamond, we all know how good he is, but sometimes I think Bocco's Diamond's price is factored into because previously what he done. If this was a dog that we'd seen, just say for argument's sake, come up from Enniscorthy and was beat 3 lengths by Bouncing Monarch, he'd be at 6 or 7-1 chance to reverse the form. But it's just what he's done previously, and don't forget, you're only as good as your last run.
I,
He's an
I, I
incredible
think
greyhound.
I think this price is sort of in between, where he's priced on what he's done before, or he's priced on the other night, and it's somewhere in between because if you're priced him on the other night, he's a 7-2 chance. If you're
Yeah,
priced on what he's done before, he's a 2-7 chance, and here we are. You know what I mean?
yeah, you could be right. You could be right, but he's short enough at 2-1. Bouncing Monarch is short enough at 2-1 from a trap five draw. Yeah, the bitch probably has the best of the draw, doesn't she? Really, like
She
Get Up the
does.
Boy is not known as a lightning fast trapper. He's got
Mm.
good early pace and he can post some flying runs to the third bend. But Flappin wouldn't be as he can fly out on occasions. But and Glengar Kane, yeah, he needs to brush up on the starting a little bit. But again, 5-2, she's skinny enough to beat the two boys. So look, for me, it's splinters in my backside here. Really a race to enjoy, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of the big prize ones gets involved.
I'll join you on that fence, Barry. But you know what? I have a
It'll
feeling.
be broke though.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks very much. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of movement in this market prior to the race. I just wouldn't be surprised if the layers went after one or two of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if a very different look 5 minutes before the off, shall we say? But that's for another day. At the moment, I think that's how I'd price it, just to sort of. I don't want to be tempting anyone in. I just as a non-layer, shall we say? It's just a case of yeah, that's about right. I can't see any Rick, but I can't really see massive value either. I think it's
Yeah,
where
I
it
agree
probably
with that.
needs to be at this moment in time. Again, people will take an opinion later in the week, and I'm sure prices will change. We'll get to the Maiden Derby before we get to the Champion Plate. You mentioned the Pack Rhymes and Sean Conway. Obviously, Sean has been making a name for himself over the last 3 or 4 years. He's doing an unbelievable job. He's done an unbelievable job with some greyhounds that while they're very talented, we're always probably that yard or two behind. But he's got another one here, Harvard Square, who I think this was very much a step forward for him. He's not a stout stayer. There's no question about it. 550 yards does stretch him. But what he does have, he's a lovely turn of early speed. He's good down the back straight. And he showed toughness and resilience the other evening to hold off first. Ballymacmillan go on to score by a half length from the fast finishing Uncle Keith. It was a fine display. And in hindsight, 14 to 1 was a crazy price about a dog who, in truth, was probably the most likely pace setter. Like that is a touch of hindsight, but certainly at 14 to 1, I'm sure plenty had a little nibble.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't one of them. But yeah, delighted for Grimes. I know Pat well, and delighted for Sean as well. You'll struggle to see somebody who has a bad word to say about Sean Conway. And just before we go any further, just I was watching the race obviously, and I was looking down. I could see Sean at the pickup, or not at the pickup, at the first bend, and he's waving the lead, and he roaring him home, and I'm saying to myself, why isn't Sean Conway at the pickup? But he obviously knows the dog first well. The dog gets to the pickup, waits
Turns.
maybe 5 or 6 turns and comes back up to. It's as if he knew he's coming back up for his presentation. But yeah, Sean knows the dog well. He was running in A3s and A4s for maybe 3 or 4 runs. It's not a type of thing you associate with a dog who ends up being a maiden derby winner or clocks 28-12. It took him a while to get going. He was showing huge early pace, but he was just really fluffing his lines in his first few contests. But look, he won. I think he broke his maiden winning in maybe 29 seconds, and then the following run he came out and done 28-19 or something like that. I think everybody thought maybe the track might have been a bit fast that night, but look, he proved it wasn't the case. He did a good spin in Cork for a trial, and
I would
look,
suggest that great credit goes to them. I know I fielded a couple of phone calls, and I wouldn't be surprised if they
I
got a few
definitely
nice
did.
nice offers for this greyhound, and they chose to hold on to him. Pat has obviously been going to Shelbourne Park for a long, long number of years. I was lucky enough to interview him for the Shelbourne Museum. He won the National Puppy Stake back in the day. Was it Manic Street?
Yeah, he won it with Run the Black as well. I think he might have won it for him twice. Run the
Run the
Black was
Black.
definitely a really, really fast
Yeah,
dog.
and I interviewed him for that, and like Pat's a great character. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he's after turning down a few bob for this dog, and all of a sudden, there's 10 grand in the back pocket. There's your rewards, my friend. And he's a dog they go to war with. Derby conditions, track will be going really well. This is a dog who won't be led by too many. He can definitely go deep into a derby, and they're definitely getting their reward for holding on to him.
yeah, and I know for a fact there were definitely offers made for him, and Pat was him and Han, and he always wanted another good one. And I think Sean had said to him, "Look, you have that good one now, so why sell him for whatever the amount is, and try and start again and find another one." But yeah, look, he doesn't look the stoutest of stayers, but he was game enough there in front the other night, and he's had 3 runs over the trip now, 29.70 twice and 29.60. Like when you're doing those 340s and moving well to the third bend, you're gonna keep on qualifying. I remember Owen McKenna said to me when Susie Sapphire was doing those sort of runs at the early part of the derby, he says three have to pass you to knock you out.
Yeah.
And that won't be easy if he's doing those sort of runs. So three will have to pass him for him to be knocked out. And look, where else does he go? You have to have a tilt at the derby because there's nowhere else for him to go. He runs the track really well. He's 2 from 3 over the 550. Why not? And we've seen some maiden derby winners with a real stamp down the derby in recent years, so he has to go for it.
Another King Sheeran with fine early speed. He has turned into a really nice sire. He's thrown some really fast greyhounds. Obviously, he's certainly helped by his litter, the Magical Mary, but there's plenty of fast ones out there. Footfield Siren goes back to Droopy's Pickles, so you'd expect Droopy's Pickles and Droopy's Hilda. So there should be lots of stamina on the damn side. Maybe it's waiting to come out. If he can combine the two, he's a proper one. And again, there's every reason to think that he's just continued to improve. He won't be 2 years of age for another fortnight. So, like, he's a talented greyhound, going places, and he's certainly one to keep an eye on. In second spot, Uncle Keith. He's been a bit of an early greyhound for Mark Robinson. He's very strong. He's sort of probably to a point nearly without a trip. I think we'll end up seeing him again over 575, 600 yards towards the back end of the year, maybe for a tilt at the Winter Racing Festival or something like that. But he's really strong. He flew home again the other evening. Barry McMalinas back in third spot. Barry, I'll be honest, I'm finding him thoroughly frustrating. I thought the other night that when he was as close as he was, I thought he would take control into the third bend. And once he didn't, you knew there wasn't much more coming from him. He tried his best to challenge off the last bend. He just the 550 really does stretch him, and he's not really making the starts he needs to do. There's no question. There's loads of ability there and loads of pace there. And the night he does pop up and win, he'll probably do me again. But he's just one of those dogs that just can't get right. Obviously, no one's got him right yet because he's yet to win a race, but it's coming. But again, it's going to be down to him brushing up his starting.
He just seems to be that typical dog without a trip sort of dog, doesn't he? We mentioned we know Harvard Square wouldn't be the strongest there in the world, you don't think, and when he loomed up from around the bottom bend, you're thinking, "Ah, we should have got involved with Malinas. He showed all that pace. You could have got a bit of 3-1 about him, but no, struggled to get home, struggled to get past, and yeah, you still your eye is drawn to that zero in the wing column, isn't it? And you're thinking, oh, did he put it all in? But I think he does. I think he just doesn't quite get the 550. He showed great pace to get up there beside the leader, and yeah, he will pop up. He'll pop up and win some night at 5-1. We're at least expecting it, but again, he's another. You'll probably have to throw him into the Derby. He's just not trapping great. Came away okay there the weekend, but yeah, he seemed to dog without a trip. He doesn't have that trapping ability and brute early pace to win the top 5-5 around there.
In truth, it wasn't a contest blessed with massive early speed. Like Harvard Square is the early
No,
pacer in the race, and then you were looking for, God, what's going to turn second here? And I sort of convinced myself that Malinas would turn close, and he did, but just couldn't get to the front. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Do you know he's the type of dog? I think he would win a bucket full of races in the UK. You know, sort of 500 meters around Hove, Nottingham, those types of tracks. Just he's probably run into a different grade of animal in Dublin. That's probably the issue. But there's no question there's better to come from him. Just at the moment, just you're probably gonna have to wait for the right makeup.
yeah, definitely. And we just want to touch on the runner up as well. Uncle Keith, he's a greyhound that will go deep into the Derby. Believe me, I think he's just
Hmm.
wide speed. He's going to get six every night of the week, and he powers home from halfway. So he's another that's going to be hard to keep out of the frame. He ran well again off the last bend. He is 3.5, 4 lengths down. He's beaten a half a length, absolutely steaming home.
Very,
I
very
think with
much
my
in the Droopy's deploy mold of last year.
yeah, good shout actually. He's that sort of dog. And then just want to touch on the favourite as well. Sleight of hand, Jack Cavern Bull. It didn't happen for those two.
Yeah.
Didn't happen from at all. They never really got involved. But sleight of hand, yeah, he's a promising young dog for Lawrence Jones, and I'm sure he'll line up in the Derby in 4 or 5 weeks' time as well.
Yeah, another type that could be seen 575, 600 yards end of the year. You know, those type of races, very strong, it seems, over the 550-yard trip. The champion plate, Barry, firstly, Price's Romeo for a fella called Paul Hennessy. He's not a bad fellow with a trainer. It's just been an incredible month for Team Henno. And this for his longtime owners, great friends, Brian Murphy and Kathleen Murphy, Price's Romeo. He's just a dog that just pops up every now and again and wins in top company. And you know, he's always nearly dismissed. Like he's 5-1 the other night, and like if you go through his card, he certainly had the form of the book to win it. As it was, the race was run to really suit. Hackney Plan didn't get loose early on the inside. He's sort of vulnerable in the early yards anyway. Probably not the best part of his race. New in spot took a flyer. He's a bit of a jumper in the boxes, but he seems to rarely miss it. He's got terrific early speed, and if I was connected to New In Spot, I think I'd be far more encouraged than disheartened by the fact that he got picked up over the 550-yard trip. I think he stayed better than I thought he would, Barry.
Yeah, I spoke to Timmy when he won the final last week, and asked him to say 550, and Timmy was of the opinion, yeah, the good going, he might be able to just burn them off a bit, and he was almost spot on. He went up strongly. He just caught in the last 20 yards, wasn't he, by Price's
Mm.
Romeo, who's quite strong and still clocking a very respectable 29.59 and what is his first start over the 550-yard trip. As you say, he wouldn't call him a messer in the boxes, but he can be hit and miss. And whether he
He,
goes
he,
six
he's
weeks
just a bit
through a
jumpy.
big
He's
competition,
on his
he is.
toes, you know.
Yeah.
Now, and you know what makes it worse, Barry, is the fact his colouring. You can see him.
He's
I'm
white.
sure there's plenty of black
Yeah.
dogs are doing every bit as much, but it's more obvious because of his colouring.
He was actually cute enough now in the final of the, was it Summer Cup that he won?
Yeah.
I think it was a Summer Cup, was it? And he went for it literally a second beforehand. And you know yourself, when they do that, they're gone back and they never come forward again. But he was very quick about getting himself right again. So
Yeah.
yeah, look, he has his ways of doing it, and it's working okay for him. But he needs to keep getting it right if he's to keep on progressing. But yeah, it ran well, and I'm sure they're happy enough the way he stayed on 29.59. It's a fine debut effort over the trip.
Yeah. Price's Romeo, you can sort of set your watch by 29, 50, 60, do it with his eyes closed, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would every night of the week. He's that sort of length or two off the very, very top of them, but he's still a really, really good greyhound in his own right, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And no doubt a dog who can go again pretty deep into a derby. Where did he get to last year? I see he was in action all the way through to the he went to the quarterfinals last year. Finished fifth in his quarterfinal, and then did he go he kept running. He won the following week, just an open 5.25. Yeah, but just again, he hit form at the right time last year. Actually did 29.56 behind Shanahy Boomer in the third round of the Derby last year. So, that's his clock in and around that. Again, talented greyhound. Do you know what he is, Barry? He's a type of dog that wins a race, he should win. Do
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
me?
good shout. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's always a good sign. Ballymacshune was back in third, and Droopy's map. I don't know if you caught a glimpse of Droopy's map, did you?
He's done some running from halfway, hasn't he?
Oh my God, he's clear to the escape. I said it on this forum a couple of times. Corn Cullen, absolutely made for it. Flat starter, stays on like a train. In their wisdom, they went to Tipperary Cup. It didn't work out from down there. Wait till I see you, Con. Wait till I see you, Con. How has this dog not been over 750 yards yet? He's absolutely made for it. But absolutely hammered home. Hammered home. Anyway, that's for another day. We move on. The second semi-final, Ballymacgwenny. You were talking to your pal Damien Lonigan yesterday. I too was talking to him. He told me the Ballymacgwenny some liabilities about this lady. There was a couple of shrewd punts about this one at double figure odds, and she's now sitting at 7-4 for the final. That's a touch because of liabilities, but also because she's a very talented performer, and we saw her again at her best here. Allo is no easy dog to pick up, and he gets loose into the opening corner, which isn't always the case over 550 yards, prefers the 575. But the fact that he's won over 575 and she picked him up into the third bend with relative ease. She goes on and then she stays on up the home straight to win in 29.67. Just an immensely fast pitch.
Yeah, I was on a low, and I was more than happy with myself out of the second bend. But yeah, it just goes to show how strong Ballymacgwenny is to pick up a low, who was very strong himself, as you say, won over 575 the week before. But Ballymacgwenny, she was well backed on the night, returned 5-1. I'm not so sure she was that big in there on the night, but yeah, plenty of shrewdies got involved in her on the night, and she got a big cheer out of the stands. The writing was on the wall really when she hit the front of the third bend, but I didn't think she got past the low that quickly. He ran well back in second. Bocco's goal, he was very short, wasn't he, Ian? I think he was 7-4 on course. But look, yeah, we know how good he is, but it was his first run
He
in Shelbourne in a while. Trap one, they can miss it there, it would have to be
trap
half
one.
more.
I just don't want him in there. I want
Mm,
him. I paint the white jacket on his back every night of the week. I think that's where he wants to be, right smack bang in the middle there. But the problem is, you stick a middle seat on him, you'll find yourself out in 5 and 6 more often than
yeah.
not. You stick an inside seat and you're hoping not to draw one. It's not really the place you want to be. It's sort of one of those situations. I think after Cork and after this run, I think he badly needs a confidence builder. I think he needs just a run where he flashes out, gets loose, and sees off his rivals pretty handy. I think we'll see a different greyhound there. Like, this is still a greyhound who potentially, if he has another race or two before the Derby, if he does things right, he could still be disputing favouritism for the Derby. That's how talented he is. We saw him in the early rounds of the Kirby. But it's hard to look past the 86 and then the fact that you put him in sort of company, and yeah, I just feel that he's not really.
He should have went up a bit
I think
stronger, do you
I
not
think
feel?
confidence is the issue is present. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, could be, but like as you say, he needs a confidence booster. There's no such thing as confidence booster. Like Graham Holland can't ring up the racing office and say, put us into a 550 there next week. He's not going to be it easy, He's going to
Yeah,
be in
I'll,
red
I'll
hot
take I'll take
AA
trap
open.
three with two slow starters on the inside if you don't mind.
Yeah, just not going to happen like that. Every race he goes into up there between now and the Derby is just going to be red hot. Maybe a couple of solos would be the way to go, but I'm certainly not going to second guess what Graham Holland's going to do.
No,
But
certainly.
yeah, I just thought he might have went up a bit stronger on the inside. Ballyhooly Bruno's a good dog, but wouldn't be renowned for his early pace, would he? And yeah, look, he's definitely give him another chance, but he needs to come away a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I just wonder if Cork. I'm just not sure Cork is his track, and I'd say he's probably just sort of. I'd say the head is a bit. Oh, not.
But just looking, Ian, just looking at that result again of that race, there was no early pace in that race, really. Like you look at Ballymacgwenny, a low, Coolmount Flame even for Anthony Rooney
No,
550.
off one of his better starts, Bucko's gold. You were expecting to see him go three clear into the open
Yeah,
bend,
yeah,
and that'd be that.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
We'll look at the Kuma and Fame. Talk about setting your watch by him. A good pal of mine, Cool Mount Fame. One of those dogs where if you're doing a tree or something, you just have to stick him in. It's not even an option. He's so fast from the second bend into the third bend, stays on really well. Member of that Orchestrate High View Moment litter. As far as I can see, there's about 172 in the litter, and every one of them are very strong and can run well. It's a huge litter. Like, am I wrong in saying every week there's one?
Just one, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. They always get a winner at litter. Yeah.
He's in one, you in spot in two, Ballymac Shoe in three, hello, hello, Ballymac Gwenny and Prices Romeo. My first instinct was I haven't a clue what's going to win this, but I certainly know what's going to be in front. I think New in Spot will be in front, and it's a case of what does get a run in behind him. He's actually a little bit unfortunate. He probably wanted more early speed in the race on his outside, something to act as a
Yeah.
buffer. Something's going to get loose in behind him. Now, if he does stay a length or two better, 29:40 would probably do it here.
Yeah. Exactly. If
I
you're
think
doing,
the track I don't think the track was flying the other night. I think the heat sometimes has that sort of little deadening effect. I'd say you could get 15, 20 out of that in the next week or two if your condition. But again, it's going to be very warm this week. But yeah, I think New in Spot is the likely pace setter. And then it's a case of what does get clear passage in behind him. And it's just not that easy knowing what is going to get in behind him because they're all sort of muchness to the opening corner. A low probably is more acceleration into the bend, but he's not a great trapper.
yeah, I agree with that. But I think yeah, Newman spot is the one to beat. A level break should see him power into the corner and lead. And as you say, 29:59 last week. If he can step forward a length and a half on that, it's going to be hard to see anything coming from behind in the 29:40 bracket. Like the dogs of the sort of the late show and the moving customer generation, they're gone. You never really see anything come up from 7, 8 lengths off the pace anymore, do you? They're all just so fast out in front, and whatever gets there, 9 times out of 10 is going to
If
win it. So I
Droopy's
think
map
it's
had
Newman's
finished
spot.
third, if Droopy's map had finished third, I'd have been watching him now, I'll tell you.
Yeah, yeah. But look,
I'm going to phrase it differently. I don't think he's the one to beat per se. I think he's there with a real life chance, but I think he's the one to pick up. And it's a case of what can get to him. And that just mightn't be that easy, as you said, Barry, for the right reasons. If he improves a length or two, they still have to go around him. They still have to get to him. And if they don't get to him to the third bend, you often find a dog like this goes again. And there's a touch of that to New in Spot. Certainly in the Summer Cup, he just kept on finding, just kept on sort of just digging a little bit deeper. And that 28:13 in the Summer Cup, if you relate that to him sort of staying the trip, 29:50 is where he should be on a back of a 28:13. A real strong stayer would be doing a 130 home, so there'd be a 29:40 type run. But that can still come. There's no question he has loads of early speed. But what will slip in behind? Currently, you'd have to say the way Paul Hennessy's going, it just wouldn't be surprised if it was Price's Romeo turning second again.
yeah, and look, he's ran him down the week before, so why wouldn't he do it again? It's just, can you get a clear sort of a run at him? Yeah, it's hard to see him being led, isn't it? It's hard to see Newland Spot being led, and yeah, for that reason, I think off the second bend, if he's in front, you're going to be on good terms with yourself. So, what turn second is very hard to figure out what's going to turn second.
Yeah,
So, I'd
no
rather
question.
pick what's going to lead.
Good final again. Two great finals to look forward to at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. The Champion Stakes, Champion Plate, both sponsored by Boyle Sports, who of course are sponsoring the Derby as well. Not an awful lot in the undercard. We need to get into. Gaston won the opener. Skywalker Bruno won the A1 550 final. He looks a nice type of dog. He's improving. 29:79. There's definitely better to come from him. Callaway Fia 28:54. I think I think I'm basing my assumption on the clocks more so on the undercard than on the main races. Obviously, they did 29:25 and 29:30. I felt the likes of Gaston was certainly going better than 30:22. And Skywalker Bruno, I would have said he was doing a 29:50 run every night of the week. And he does 29:79. Like he wins 10 lengths, he leaves them standing. I just felt, and even Callaway Fia, she got loose on the bunny, she does 28:54. But sure, like we're seeing A3 dogs doing 28:54 on nights. So I just feel that probably was running a little bit in the dead side. Whether it quickened up, I don't know. Harlequin G up. He has faster than 28:52 on his card, but just a real professional wins the finale for Scott Phelan. Like last time he won a race, it was in 28:31 at Shelbourne Park. Prior to that, he'd won in 28:51. So again, yeah, I think the track could have been just a length or two quicker. It certainly has often been in the past. But no, some fine displays from start to finish. Anything else to add before we move on, Bar?
I'm just, I'm always banging this drum about the track. Sometimes you have to take the times in there with a pinch of salt.
Of course.
I think the track can move 3 or 4 lengths from half an hour to a half an hour. I really do. So always go through your lines of form really, then set your watch for the clock. That's what I'd say.
Absolutely, no question about it. We're going to move now, Barry, to Greyhound Park, and the bitches were in action in the Shelley Fennelly Memorial. The first heat went to Good Katie. She's long been a talented type for John Kennedy, and she showed her strength. She turned second. She picked up Knock na Dog Star to win in 28:39. And the other heat went to Droopy's Crea, lowering the colours of Carrigan Witt, who had set the standard in the previous round. This was more like it from Droopy's Crea. She was a touch disappointing in the opening round. This was more like it from her. But let's start with Good Katie. Just a talented lady. Shows loads of pace down the back straight. Just an impressive display for John Kennedy.
Yeah, she's been a very good bitch since the very start of her career. She got the better of Ballymacgrenny in an unrace stake at Shelbourne Park at the back end of last year. I think she went unbeaten through that, or she might have been beaten on debut, but she showed huge form in that, winning the final in a good run, 28:30 odd. But yeah, once she got up the inside down the back straight, she was always going to be very, very hard to hold. She's got a cracking card. She stays really well. She's got good early pace. She can trap, and she's going to be a big, big player in the final. How are we going to pronounce? Is it Droopy's Crea or Droopy's Croya?
It's
It's
Crea.
not. It's not Droopy's Crea.
Crea, isn't it?
It's almost
It's
Crea.
heart. Is a heart in Irish. My Irish isn't great.
Cree is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think Crea would be something like your love or something like
Heartless.
that. Yeah. Listen, when it comes to Irish, let's not. I'm going to stick with Crea, even though it's sort of Croya, but I'm going to stick with Crea. It sort of makes more
Comes to
sense to
Irish,
me. I haven't been correct. I
Leverage
haven't been
has been
corrected
gone.
yet. Have you?
Many a time. Just a word on Horse Lawyer before we get into it. He's one that's absolutely flying at the moment. He was a good race dog without being an outstanding race dog, wasn't he? A good consistent race dog, flying a ace. But my God, he's producing some real stars at the moment, and
They have loads
she
of
was
pace,
very,
Barry.
very good again.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have
he
loads of
does.
pace.
He does.
I'd like them to be a touch sharper at boxes. I'll say that.
Yeah, you were saying that to
They
me
have
actually
loads
last
of
week.
early speed into the opening corner. That's what I like. And obviously, he's had great winners over two bends, four bends, and six bends. Lindy's Desires, son of Side of Ace. So always good to see them. Now, it's Droopy's Alice. I'd say she'd throw now to say she'd throw to the sheepdog down the end
McGinty's
of the
goat.
road.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
let's look at that second heat. Droopy's Croya. She got the better of Carrigan Witt, who went up fast. The two of them had a great buckle to halfway, but Droopy's Croya was probably just a bit sharper into the third bend. Goes on to win 28:26 by 3 lengths. Fine display. Two very talented ladies. A long, long way back to Cosmic View in third.
Yeah, it was a two dog race from the off, really, wasn't it? The two of them took absolute flyers, and the two of them are probably 2.5 lengths clear passing the line the first time, and yeah, a bit of trouble in behind, but that's the way it finished. Droopy's career was just the strongest from the third bend, and never really in any doubt, even though the favourite was chasing a Carrigreen Wit. But two smashing bitches, and it's always a great final this scene, isn't it? Shelley Fennelly Memorial,
Yeah.
and look, we've seen some good bitches knocked out. Clan Sapphire was a little bit unlucky. She was just nutted in the final of the Oaks, looking for some compensation, but the trap draws did her no favour. She ran well despite finishing fifth, but
She
yeah, look,
she
it's going
is
to
a
be a
bitch
cracking
that
final.
she's so potent when she's close to the fence because she can concentrate and just get into the bend as quick as she possibly
Exactly.
can. Rural Anna did qualify in third. She's very, very strong, very fast. We know how good she is. And Cosmic View completed the lineup. But as you say, a couple of very talented ladies going out, including Lenny's Dream, who I'm sure will rock up for the Derby. Why wouldn't they? She ran so well in the last year in the early rounds. So no reason why she wouldn't do so again. Yeah, cracking final to the Shelley Fennelly Memorial Open Pitch, 5-5. Just looking, the draw is there. Droopy's Korea will probably start favourite from trap one. Rural Anna's in two, Good Katie three, Cosmic View, Knocking a Dog Star out in five, and Carrigan Wit in trap six. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Droopy's Korea will be, I would say, fairly short. They do like the inside of Curraheen. When you have a likely favourite drawn in red, they end up going even off sort of crazy short price at times. Like, it'd be no surprise to me if this lady was a touch of odds on.
Yeah, I was thinking that because Droopy's Katie has to get across her,
Mm.
if she's any chance of beating her, and I just can't see that unless she takes an absolute flyer. So yeah, the red jacket down there in Cork is a huge bonus, and yeah, she could be a 5 to 4 even money chance.
Yeah, let's move on. We have to touch upon Limerick because there was a €20,000 pot on offer, Barry, in the Time Club Derby, an A4525. Those of us that studied the semi-final form and some of the earlier form, I sort of suggested last week that Imagine If was well housed in two, could be potentially the pace setter. That was sent off an even money chance, but in terms of overall pace and strength, Kerry Rodal was the standout for me on semi-final form. He absolutely took off. Stopped in his run three or four times. He still does 28:78 in the semi-finals. So the other night when he turned second, it was a case of when, not if. 28:46. Kevin McLean he's trained some fast greyhounds in his past. So many of them really, really strong, and that's exactly what this fellow is. He turns he turns third, but all of a sudden off the second bend, boom, he's through the gap, and like how far does he go on to win by? 6 lengths in the end, 28.46 or 28.47, 28.46, Barry. Just a power pack display.
Yeah, look, I love this competition. I really do. I think it's a great incentive. Fair play to the lads that put on.
Struggling to hear you there, Bar. No volume for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I love this competition. I really do. I think it's a great incentive. £20,000 for your sort of average run of the mill dogs. And even when you look down at the prize money breakdown, 7.5 for second, 4-6 for third. It's cracking prize money, and gives everybody with a grade or a real chance. Yeah, the final Kerry Road Al, he broke well, tapped for a little bit of early pace into the corner, but got a dream run up the inside down the off the second bend, and it was plain sailing from then on. I don't know Kevin McLean, Ian, but I just looked. He's no stranger to a winner. I think since the IGB have the records, he's at over 500 winners. So delighted for him. He runs most of his dogs around Youghal and Cork, and he actually had the little brother in the consolation final, Kerry Road Pa, who no luck finishing fifth. But I'm sure Kevin will be looking forward to the old payments next Friday week when his bank account is a nice chunky £20,000 richer. So I know some people say A4 dogs, you shouldn't be giving them 20,000 when you have A1 dogs and open dogs running for a lot less, but it's a once-off competition. I love it. I really love the whole concept of it. The first two rounds, you can't
As
do
we've
this, you
often
can't do
say,
that.
it's a good way to say goodbye to graded company because he's now AAO.
100%.
He's
Yeah.
very, very strong. He's versatile. They can certainly step up and trip. And we just mightn't have seen the last of this fellow. I know it's going to be tougher going forward, but just given his strength, they have options with him going forward. I just wouldn't be surprised if there was plenty of offers for him too. He is very strong, as I say. €20,000. The dog in second, bundles of fiver, missed the kick somewhat. He showed a lovely turn of pace down the back straight, Barry. He entered the back straight last, and he moved second at the third bend. I would say if he sharpens up early, he'll win bundles of races, never mind bundles of fivers. He's only won the twice thus far in his career, but there's definitely better to come from him. But as you said, Bart, it's very different. €20,000, and it's a great initiative if you can get them through those first two rounds, and that's when that's where you're tested. You sort of, how do you back them off, and how do you try and just sneak them through, and you hope nearly for a bad draw in the second round and sneak through, because it's some carrot.
Oh, it's huge, and as I say, like the prize money that filters down for all the finalists as well. Fair play to all the lads at time. They're sponsoring some big races, Puppy Derby now on starting on Tuesday in Shelbourne Park, and yeah, €20,000 for an A4 dog. Look, I know he won it in an AA Open time, but even the entry they got, I think they advertised it for maybe 72, and they got
I
144.
think they'd only got 72 last year, and I
Yeah,
don't know what the reasoning for that was, but 144 bar. It's unbelievable.
unbelievable. Yeah, ran over 2 nights, so I like the competition. I understand where people are saying a open dog should be getting more money. I get that argument, but as a once-off competition once a year, I like it. I really do.
Yeah. You mentioned the Juvenile Derby. It is fast approaching. It starts on Tuesday night. And one greyhound that will be amongst the entry, Barry, is Super Mac, a fantastic winner of the Pat Curtin Memorial Cup. We remember Pat once again through this great competition, €3,500 to the winner. It was pretty much done and dusted from the early stages of this competition. You could see by Super Mac in the opening round that he meant business, came through to win in 29.56. The following week, he does a 28.96, the fastest run at Mullingar since 2004. First greyhound to break it, break 29 seconds in 2004. Overcame a little bit of heartache or traffic, should I say, in the early stages of his semi final from Trap 1. Trap 5. You think, oh, he's an inside seed. If you'd seen him in his first three runs around Mullingar, you're going, that's the ideal draw for him. And I noticed the other day he wasn't tipped on top of the card from Trap 5. I knew he'd be something odds on. 4-6. And I'll be honest, Barry, after 5 strides, I wish I was on a bit of that 4-6. This was just an annihilation. Wins 9.5 lengths, 28.97. Be very interesting to see how he takes to Shelbourne Park. Obviously, a son of McInerney out of I'll Not Be Back, who still is joint record holder at Curryheen Park for the 5-to-5 yard trip. She was a very talented lady. Her first 2 or 3 litters weren't, there weren't, first 2 litters weren't any superstars in them. Turlesbeck Pablo was a nice type, tremendous early speed, but I think Super Mac is quickly developing into the best she's thrown. Be very interesting to see how he handles considerable step up in company. But the fact that they brought him down to the Dennis Linton Open on race down at Curraheen Park suggests that they thought plenty of him, and it's probably easy to see why.
Yeah, he's a nice way of going about him. He's very sort of light in his feet when you watch him running down that back straight in Mullingar. He's a nice action. Very, very small dog in comparison nowadays. He's only 64 pound, which maybe 20 years ago he'd have been a big bitch, you know. But he's a small dog now at 64 pound. You see, you're talking about the Bocco's Gold 86 pound, and most of the best dogs now are in around the high 70s, aren't they? So he's
Yeah.
small enough, but he obviously has a big heart. But yeah, 28.97. I'm not too sure the record down in Mullingar, but as you said, it's the fastest run down there in the last few years. But he's been handed the heat from hell for his Shelbourne Park
Yeah,
debut
it's a tough
on
start.
Tuesday
Yeah, a
night.
tough start. Yeah.
Yeah, Droopy's Monk and Ballymac Hitman on his inside and Carrie Cooley on his outside. So welcome to Shelbourne Park, Superman.
It's one of those where you're going, it's like this, son. You either trap or you're out. Simple as that. No room for error in the juvenile derby or puppy derby, of course. The puppy derby, Barry. We're back to puppy derby. It's like a hark to our youth. This juvenile derby lark. Let's do away with that. It's a puppy derby, a true puppy derby. And I know they were desperate to get it started. They didn't want it carrying over and whatnot. But it's Tuesday night. It's a real midweek bonus for us in Dublin. Before we touch upon that, we also touch upon the Dundalk International. We mentioned Curraheen Park on Saturday night. There was a notable trial at Dundalk on Saturday, or in Cork on Saturday night. Lenny's Dynamic did 17:14, equal the track record in a trial prior to racing. And our pal Damien reported yesterday that he didn't know anything about the trial, and all of a sudden he noticed that there was been a few chunky bets on Lenny's Dynamic to win the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby, and he soon found out why. Yeah, just a
I
hell
rang
of a
him. I rang
trial.
him Saturday night. I rang him Saturday night, and I said to him, "What prices?" Or sorry, I sent him a text. What price is Lenny's Dynamic for the Irish Derby? And he sent me back 20s. And I said, "Would you 20s?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "It's been hopping since 7 o'clock." He said,
Yeah.
so everybody obviously seen that trial. So he was a better 50s. 20s is a bit skinny now, isn't it?
Yeah, the fifties has disappeared. Obviously his namesake, Lenny's Eddie, will be in action in the Dundalk International. You say if he gets selected, but I think it's safe to say he will be selected. Cut off by the time people are watching this, probably will have seen the lineup. Never mind, the draw. Never mind what's in the lineup. But at present, it looks like it's going to be pretty hot. Still time for one or two sort of surprise entries. Epic Ace was added to the list on Saturday night when he went out of the Champions Stakes. You have Ballycowan Frank, Ballymac Ralph, Lenny's Eddie. Sing Along Polly is now an entry instead of Hackney Corner, who has to be said, it didn't look really comfortable in his trial. Two-Maker King, Indian Mist, Droopy's Winsome, and Get Up the Boy is still entered. Do they do back to back Saturday Sunday? It'd be interesting. He's going to be contacted today, so whatever happens, I know they're still going to contact a couple more trainers, see if they have anything for it. But it's going to be a fascinating Dundalk International next Sunday night at Dundalk.
It is. It's always a cracking race, isn't it? Always gets a huge crowd down there. It's always going to be tough to pick the six finalists, isn't it? It really is. Remember, we were actually speaking about it after racing in Shelbourne on Saturday night. It's called the International. It was always the International. It was three from England against three from Ireland. It was a true sort of an international thing. That's sort of waned over the last couple of years, where we're sort of lucky to have maybe one or two English runners in it. But personally, I'd like to see Epic Ace in it. I know he was beaten fair and square in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, but he's a really, really fast dog when he does things right, isn't he, Epic Ace? I'd love to see him in it.
Of course,
Obviously,
and of
Lenny's
course,
Eddie
a
Costa.
finalist in the Irish Nationals Cup or Irish Spring Cup last year. Knows
Down
Dundalk.
there.
Track
Yeah,
record
exactly.
breaker,
Yeah.
toaster, favourite to win the English Derby. Like, I think it's safe to say he'll be in there.
Yeah, it is. But picking the rest is not going to be easy, and I'm sure there's going to be some disappointed connections. But sure, look, hey ho, there you go. But it should be a cracking race.
Yeah, without sort of doing anyone a disservice, it's probably easier enough to knock out a couple of them out of the equation. But that, it's the difference between 6 and 7. That's the real sort of where
Six,
the test
seven,
is.
Ian. There you
No, Barry,
go.
no, Barry, no, Barry, Barry. That's so 2025. I can't do that around my kids anymore. They slag me off.
I know,
Um,
I know.
any other business before we leave you? Oh, I want to mention Dundalk on the subject in Dock, on Saturday night, the Carroll Memorial, the Paddy and Eamon Carroll Memorial came to a conclusion. These sort of competitions, they are wonderful. You remember Great Doggy Men. It was 3 grand to the winner. It was run over 3 or 4 weeks. We saw some cracking action in it, and in the end, probably the right winner, Barnhill Dancer, a dog who showed just a lovely turn of early speed in most of his starts, and the other night had to do it the harder way. Ravenswood Rue got off the front for Jerry Barber, and while she hasn't won and she's yet to win a race, it's happening. You can see she's developing all the time. A lovely turn of early speed, but Barnhill Dancer got up to land the spoils. 3 grand, wins by a neck in 28.97. I don't know if you have anything to add to it. Son of Droopy's got it. I know you were a huge fan of Droopy's got it.
I like Droopy's College. Yeah, I was down there unfortunately when he ran his last race for Ian Riley. But yeah, it's always a good competition, always well supported. A nice little pot as well. And I think last year it was won by, was it Rolo Tokyo might have won this last year, or one of those Rolo dogs, and went really well in the Derby, didn't he? Or he was
Yeah,
well fancied for the
I think
Derby.
he
He was
set the
well back.
standard in the first night of the Derby, didn't he? Rolly
Yeah, yeah.
Tokyo.
I think he came from winning that event in Dundalk. So
Wow. That's a
yeah,
good
big
nugget,
ask
Barry. That's a good nugget.
of information.
Yeah. You're a mind. You're a mind of information.
There's some things in there. They just have to come out the right way.
Yeah. You've taken a break from Tottenham's transfer business, have you?
I just can't keep up with it. And congratulations to all our English viewers. We're absolutely thrilled, weren't we, to see England
We
beating
are
Mexico
absolutely
last night.
thrilled. We have to put away our sombreros for another year, Barry.
Taoiseach ag Shakawalya, is that what they're saying? That's it's coming in home. I don't know.
I don't know, Barry. I really don't. My Irish is appalling. All I know,
Neil J coming home.
all I know what to say is G Eva Corja because Fáilte Nuka Shelbourne Park Bally Rossiak Nagan.
I don't
And
even know
it's
how to say
I
that.
wouldn't mind. It was written down for me for about 5 years. And we're giving the game away.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Bar, it's all action for the next few months. So as a result, we have decided to take a week's break. The truth be known is Dawn's away, so no one else is going to piece together
Him and
our
I always
ramblings.
see him.
No one can edit our ramblings in quite the efficient manner as Dawn can. So we're not here next week. We will catch up on the Champion Stakes, Champion Plate, and other events the following week. Before, I mean, you'd assume that following week we'll have a clearer picture of. Obviously, we'll be talking about the Dundalk International Boil Sports Champion Stakes, those sorts of races. The Derby it's nearly upon us, Bar. Like, you're talking the end of the month we're like the draw is in the early days of August. We're already into this sort of 7th of July.
There you go.
We're getting there. Just great period in the year, always.
Yeah, it is, and we've like the next 4 or 5 days are going to be really to look forward to. You have as you say, tomorrow night the Puppy Derby, and then Saturday night, and then Shelley Fennelly even down in Cork, and then just so people aren't caught out, the trap draw for the Derby this year is going to be on the Bank Holiday Monday. Is that right? So it's going to be on Bank Holiday Monday, the 3rd of August. So just in case people are planning on getting the entries in for maybe Tuesday, just be aware that the draw is going to be made on the bank holiday. So I'm sure entries have to be in on the Friday or Saturday, because I think we were up there last year and we are getting a few text messages as the draw was going on, going, why hasn't my dog been pulled out? So you've been warned. Make sure the entries are in well before the 3rd of August.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see any reason in holding back. Why not just make your entries the week in advance? Simple as that. Barry, a pleasure as always. That's it though. We're not here next week. My thanks to Barry Caul, who, if you want to see in his pomp, Mr. Worldwide will be playing at Marley Park on Tuesday night.
I won't. I'll be over at the Juvenile Derby.
Bring the aviators. I will be at the Juvenile Derby. My wife and daughter are going to Pitbull, but that's for another day. Bar, thanks as always. That's it though from us on Talking Dogs on a Monday. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I have to say that. The kids give out to me if I'm on YouTube and don't say like and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out Barry Drake's podcast on Thursday morning. Again, we are taking a break next week. We will be back the following week with lots to discuss, lots to look forward to. So we'll see you a fortnight from now on Talking Dogs on Monday. But for now, good luck, good evening, God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.